So next we'll move on to Abby Smith.
Hey Auburn, my name is Abby Smith and I'm so honored to be one of your top 5 candidates for Miss Auburn. So just a little bit about myself, I'm a junior majoring in nutrition and I'm on the Auburn dance team. I'm so excited to get to share my platform with y'all this week, and that's raising awareness for the Eagles program. So if y'all don't know, the Eagles program at Auburn is a program for students with intellectual disabilities on campus. And this year at Auburn, I was fortunate enough to get to form friendships with students in the program, and I can honestly say that I've learned so much and experienced great personal growth through these friendships. So this week we're hoping to focus on 3 main goals, and that's awareness, education, and inclusion. I really want to encourage everyone to get to know the students in the Eagles program this week and learn a little bit more about what the program is and see all that it has done for Auburn. I think that raising awareness for the Eagles program and promoting inclusion for students with intellectual disabilities on campus really opens the door for opportunities for all of the parties involved. And I really think that all relationships begin with a single conversation, and it's important to start those here at Auburn. So I know it can be a little bit new or different for everyone, but I really encourage you all this week to get to know the students in the program and open a door for yourself and start a new conversation. I truly believe that we as a student body should be all in for awareness and inclusion of the Eagles program. And I really hope to spread this message through my campaign, but also for the rest of my time at Auburn and yours. So I'm so fortunate to get to stand up with all of y'all this week, and I'm super excited to just spread awareness for the Eagles program. I want to thank you so much for letting me talk tonight, and I hope to safely see y'all on the concourse this week, and I hope you'll be all in with Abby. War Eagle.
Next we'll move on to Caroline Keim.
Hey Auburn, my name is Caroline Keim, and I'm really excited to be able to run for Miss Auburn this year. Really excited to be able to share my platform with you all, just because it is a huge part of my story. This past year has just been really hard for me just because of a number of reasons, but more specifically back in April, something really devastating happened with my family. And after about a month of just sitting in my grief and not really knowing what to do, a mentor of mine encouraged me to go to counseling. And I'd always grown up around counseling and had heard about it, but I'd never gone for myself, just because I figured that it wasn't for me. But once I started to go, I realized that anyone, no matter if they're going through something hard or not, could benefit from it. So that's what I want to do with my entire platform. My whole slogan is called Make Time with Keim. And so there are 2 parts to that. The first part is encouraging students to make time for personal healing in their own life. For me, it was counseling, but also just want to encourage people that counseling doesn't just have to look like going to someone's office and telling them all about your life. It could be meeting with a mentor for coffee once a week, or going for a walk with one of your friends. And then the second part to that is to make time for important conversations about what's really going on in your life. Once I started to share my story with people, I realized that 1, I wasn't alone in what I was feeling, and also 2, it just opened up the doors to a lot of amazing conversations about not just my life, but mental health in general, and I got to hear a lot of other people's stories. So please come and see me on the concourse. I would love to meet you all and hear your stories as well. But just want to thank you all for even just this opportunity to stand here and be able to share my story is just incredible. But yeah, thank you so much. I hope you all will make time with Keim next week.
Next we'll move on to Elaine Shankoot.
Hey y'all, my name is Elaine Shankoot. I'm one of your top 5 Miss Auburn candidates. I'm with the Honest and True campaign this week. My campaign is basically inviting the student body to be honest and true with their experiences, to be more open with their leadership about how they can be better served. So I want to invite y'all to have those conversations with me and also the other candidates on the concourse this week. If you want to read more about my platform, it's up on the SGA website, and I really wanted to take this time to say thank you to everyone who has messaged me, approached me on the concourse, stopped me in the hallway in the Student Center to tell me about their Auburn experience. I just want to say that I hear you, and that means a lot to me, that in the last 24 hours since kickoff, you've been able to trust me with your experiences. That has made this process so rewarding and has given me so much hope for the future of Auburn, to know that y'all are responding to this message and to say that this is really what you need. So thank you for your honesty, thank you for trusting me, and thanks for being honest and true this week.
So now we'll go back to our first 2 candidates, starting with Mary Collins.
Okay, War Eagle, y'all. My name is Mary Collins, and I have the honor for running for your next Miss Auburn. You might have heard me this week talking a lot about how this is not my platform, but our platform. To dive into this, when I was looking into this campaign, I wanted to know what identities I recognized in myself that I see in the Auburn family. This was that I am a white, cisgender, heterosexual, Christian woman in a sorority, which means I roughly identify with 38% of our Auburn family, which means that Miss Auburn needs to represent way more than that. And so it is with this platform that I wanted to create not only for someone that looks like me, but for people who look differently, and no matter what that identity may be. And it is through honesty and truthfulness in the line of the creed that I have chosen to explore this platform further. In this past year, we've been given the opportunity to engage in conversations that we have been avoiding for way too long. It is my hope that through this platform, we will become more open-minded and willing to actively participate in these conversations. I'm challenging the Auburn family this week to add their pronouns to Zoom, AU Access, Canvas, and even social media. Some people may say that this is unnecessary, but this is the easiest way to make an inclusive community for every member of the Auburn family, and it's such an easy way to do it. Auburn was actually ranked 6th least friendly LGBTQ+ community last year in Princeton Review. And so this is something we really wanted to focus on, of just making one way that we can make a difference to lower this number and make a more inclusive community, again, for every single member of the Auburn family. And so I want to encourage Auburn students to start engaging in more critical conversations, because so often we stray away from these conversations because we're afraid that they are not perfect. It is in these imperfect conversations that we are able to create change and also an impactful community. Voting is one of the easiest ways to create an impactful community with your voice. And so it is by voting for any candidate, whether it be president, vice president, treasurer, or Miss Auburn, that you are able to show your values on Auburn's campus. So when many people feel that their voice and their outlet for their voice is not heard, the time of voting is an important time for this. And so I encourage you all this week to vote, whether it be for president, vice president, treasurer, or Miss Auburn, because serving as your Miss Auburn has been an honor and will be an honor, but it has never been the intention of this campaign I have created. So thank you so much for the opportunity to share our platform.
And lastly, we'll hear again from Kathleen Sullivan.
Hey again, everyone. My name is Kathleen Sullivan, and it's an honor to stand up here with these incredible women as a top 5 Miss Auburn candidate. Like I said earlier, Auburn's been a place that has shaped and challenged me in so many ways. Coming here 500 miles away from home, from the greatest city in the world, Tampa, Florida, I didn't know a single person on campus besides my older sister here. So coming on campus, not knowing anyone, I was challenged to live with resilience and intentionality from the very first day that I got here. Auburn's been a place that has made me who I am today, and I would know for a fact that I would not be the person standing before you without the experiences that I've had at Auburn University. So that's why this week we're focusing on 3 big things that I've grown in during my time here. I think a lot of other students have as well. The first of these is a sound mind. I always thought that I had to put up this image to be who everyone thought I was going to be. I never thought that I would be someone who struggled with anxiety and depression and mental health challenges. And so when I actually was going through those seasons and continued to grow in that area, it was something that I didn't know how to talk to my friends about. It was something I kept hidden from my family and my roommates. But I came to a point where I realized that openness and vulnerability is something that is so important in the life of each student. That's what we're encouraging everyone to have sound minds this week. Second, we're focusing on sound bodies. Auburn is known as the loveliest village on the plains, and this time of year, that's never been more true. So we're encouraging people to be outside and active with their friends, whether that's going to the rec, playing spike ball on Sanford Lawn, or going to Chihuahua and exploring the waterfalls and all that, which I've fallen in the water many times. Lastly, we're focusing on a spirit that is not afraid. I came to Auburn not knowing who I was or who I wanted to become, but Auburn has accepted me to be exactly who I am, and that's myself. That's why we're encouraging students to live with boldness and have a spirit that is not afraid, to commit to the Auburn family and being true to themselves. The Auburn family is composed of so many different types of people, and I consider it a privilege and an honor to be accepted here exactly as I am. That's why it's been my greatest honor and privilege to serve Auburn these past 3 years, and I know it would be my greatest privilege and honor to serve as your next Miss Auburn. I'm so excited for the rest of this week and the ability to stand up here, and it's truly an experience that I'll always cherish, especially surrounded by such incredible women like these women on this stage. So that's why we're changing the scene with Kathleen this week, so that we can better do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly, it says in the creed. Thanks again for your time, and have a great night.
Thank you so much to all of our Miss Auburn candidates for sharing your platforms with the student body. We can now welcome our treasurer candidates to the stage. You may now begin with your 1-minute opening statements, beginning with Stephen.
Guys, wanted to first off say thank you all so much for either joining the Zoom or for coming in person today. It takes a lot to run, so wanted to commend everybody, from president all the way down to Miss Auburn. Really excited just to be here tonight and share my platform and really share my passion for running. My platform is focused on two main ideas. The first one being community and the second one being financial literacy. As far as community goes, all Auburn students pay to be part of Auburn Student Government Association, but I really feel like most students that don't have a role in our organization don't feel like they're either heard or feel like they're part of this organization. I want to bridge this gap really in two ways. The first way that I want to do this is I want to offer more scholarship money to all the students. And the second way that I want to do this is I want to open up all of our excess funds in our reserve fund so that any organization can apply for funding. As far as financial literacy goes, I want to be able to put into our core curriculum for all majors from English, science, whatever it is, to learn how to learn how to set up a credit card or even take out a loan. During a time of so much divide, I hope to be able to bring together this Auburn family. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephen. We'll now move on to Hannah for your opening 1-minute statement.
Auburn family, War Eagle, I'm so humbled and blessed to be here tonight. It has been just a whirlwind and a phenomenal opportunity, something that I just haven't taken for granted. SGA has been a part of my life since stepping foot on this campus, and it has been an amazing chance just to share my love and passion for the university with my fellow students. I want to thank everyone that's on Zoom tonight, joining in, family, friends, all of those that have surrounded me this week and the weeks before leading up to this, and just showered me with love and with grace. And it is just something that has brought me to tears at times. I just am so grateful to be here tonight, and I cannot wait to share my vision and my platform with all of you guys tonight. So thank you for tuning in, and I'm excited to get started.
Thank you so much to the both of you. So the first question, you'll have a minute and a half to respond, and we'll start with Stephen. What role do you believe the SGA treasurer should play in supporting students' financial needs, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah, so I think that this is a huge part of just my platform. And first and foremost, we have so much excess funds of offering scholarship money to students. So many students, like you said, are going through a tough time right now with COVID. People are getting laid off. Parents are getting laid off right now. It's tough for students. I think one of the best ways that we can do this is offering our excess funds to students in need right now. Another way that I think would be awesome to really help out our Student Government Association and the students is to give students work on campus. There's so many organizations that need our resources and our time, and if we're able to give students jobs to be able to help these resources, not only are we helping those organizations, but we're also helping our students. I think that that's a phenomenal way to give back to our student body.
Hannah, you'll have 45 seconds for a rebuttal.
Yeah, so that's a great question to bring up. Actually, this past year, I've had the privilege of serving as the AVP of Finance under our current treasurer, Caroline Willoughby, and have had the opportunity to work with her on a financial literacy project in partnership with Regions Bank. And as we started this project up, we took a large survey of the student body, and we found that 75% of students have been impacted by COVID-19 when it comes to their finances. And so that's actually a large part of my platform, was shaping this financial literacy. It really hit me that, wow, a lot of the reason why this is happening is because students don't know how to manage their finances. And so I want to have this platform turned into a financial literacy app, and with budgeting tools for students, as well as an Office of Financial Wellness on campus with in-house financial coaches where students can sit down and say, I'm having these issues.
Move on to the second. Sorry, y'all. We'll move on to the second question, beginning with Hannah. Beyond providing financial literacy educational opportunities for students, how will you promote diversity, equity, and inclusion through the allocation and management of student activity fees?
Absolutely. So this past year, I've had the opportunity to serve on the concessions board here at Auburn, where we allocate concessions money to various organizations on campus that do not get approved for funding. And it has come to my attention that there are a lot of organizations that cannot operate because they're underrepresented, and that comes in with diversity. So whether it's race, ethnicity, the number of people in the organization, I really do feel that's a part of my platform as well, is starting the conversation. Every student deserves to be involved, and a lot of that comes with funding. And so using the student activity fee in a way that we can allocate it properly to fund all organizations is very important to me. Sometimes the transparency of the student activity fee isn't very clear, and every student pays that money to SGA as part of their tuition and fees. And so if they're not allowed to be involved as much as another student, that doesn't really seem fair. And so that needs to be allocated properly in order for everyone to feel included at Auburn.
Stephen, you'll have 45 seconds for a rebuttal.
I think that the best way that we can do this is two ways. First way, having liaisons, just so that we can hear voices. You know, right now we don't have enough diversity, equity, and inclusion in the student government. I think the best way that we can find out who needs funding is to have consistent communication with these groups. The second way is opening up the Student Government Association to more people. You know, right now we only have a set amount of groups that we're, basically representing. I want to open this up so that all organizations are heard and all organizations have the opportunity to be funded. Because so many people have such great projects, but don't have the funding and resources necessary.
Thank you so much. We'll move on to the next question, beginning with Stephen. Auburn SGA sponsorship of the Auburn Ring program is important for generating revenue that supports various student activities in addition to the student activity fee. What are your plans to enhance the Auburn Ring tradition during your term, and how do you hope to use the revenue it generates to benefit Auburn students?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first and foremost, we have to make the Auburn Ring an experience, right? When you're in high school, if there's a state championship ring, everybody wants it. But when you come to Auburn, you don't really hear about the Auburn Ring, and you really don't necessarily want it that much. We have to change that stigma around here. When we look at universities like Clemson, they have such a strong turnout for buying their ring. We've got to have that here because, like you said, that makes up a large majority of our income. And then we have to find ways to allocate that income to then give it to all areas of campus.
Hannah, you'll have 45 seconds for a rebuttal.
Absolutely. So I think that when it comes to the Auburn Ring program, as a part of cabinet this year, I was able to see ring programming as we tried to take it to the next level this year. And a lot of it has to do with marketing, getting it out to the student body and saying, hey, this is available to you. And this is an experience that's neat for you to be a part of. And so that's something that Hunter Short started a few years ago, and I think is something that we need to continue and ramp it up a little when it comes to that. And obviously that money from the ring programming, bringing it in when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion, honestly, and helping fund organizations with that money as well that we bring in and allocating that properly through the budget and finance is very important. And I think that the ring programming, bringing it together, making it an Auburn experience, it already is, but just allowing students to understand that and to understand the magnitude of it.
Thank you so much. The next question will start with Hannah. If you were required to advocate on behalf of the student body for how the scholarship office should allocate scholarship money to students, what priorities would you suggest to them?
So this year, with being AVP of Finance, I received a lot of Auburn answers that came to me from students that were really gut-wrenching. Students saying, I'm working 3 jobs, COVID's now come, now I'm only working 2, and I can't pay for my tuition. What do I do? And it was a cry of help. And that also is something that has really just shaped my platform because it broke my heart because they come in anonymous. So I don't know who it is. It could be someone sitting next to me. It could be a friend. It could be someone in my social sorority or in another organization I'm involved in. And we have to have resources for students, and scholarships is where that starts. And those students that are working so hard and still cannot pay for their tuition, they deserve priority. So that would be something that would be very important to me, as well as diversity. Making sure that people that are receiving scholarships, that diversity is represented and that they aren't all going to the same group, that they're given out fairly and that they are given out in consideration of the work that students have put in and their academics as well, I think is very important.
Stephen, you'll have 45 seconds for a rebuttal.
I've had the opportunity of being in the Auburn Financial Management Association, and one of the most beneficial parts of that is just the mentorship that I've seen there. I think that it's so important to find students to give scholarship money to one, that need it, but 2, that are dedicated to the Auburn family. If we can find those students and find that healthy balance between the students that are absolutely busting their butt, basically, to be able to help this Auburn family, those are the people that we need to be helping out. And at the same time, there's so many other people who wish that they could give to this Auburn family. And I think that if we allocate resources effectively, we can help contribute towards their passion for this Auburn family.
Thank you both so much. You now have 1 minute for your closing remarks, beginning with Stephen.
Again, just wanted to say thank you so much to everybody. I talked a little bit about my platform, but what I really feel is, I'm so passionate about is my role is outside of the budget. Right now we live in a time of so much divide. We live in a time of so much uncertainty, and quite honestly, it's pretty lonely on campus. I really just want to be a voice. As an executive member, I want to be the person that's talking to the administration to voice your concerns, to be able to speak up for you with everything going on. Because how are we supposed to come together as an Auburn family if we can't even come together at all? And that's what I hope to be able to do for you. So I hope that you'll be sold on Sadie for treasurer.
Hannah, you have 1 minute.
Once again, just thank you to everyone for tuning in tonight. This week, I'm hoping to invest in Auburn, invest in each other, and invest in you. And I hope that you'll take the time to read every candidate's platform this week. But specifically, just the role of treasurer is evolving. It used to be a role where you're allocating money to organizations and you're managing the finances of SGA. And I want it to be more than that. And I know that it can be. And that's why I'm here, because I've seen the students crying out for help. And I think I can fix it, and I want to fix it, and I want to be that person. And so that's why I'm here. That's why we're going higher with Hannah, because I know I can take treasurer higher. I know I can take the role to what it needs to be. And I can't wait to see all of you out on the concourse. I hope you'll come visit us and see us. And I hope next week you'll choose to go higher with Hannah.
Thank you both so much. You may now step down from the stage. And next, we'll welcome our vice presidential candidates to the stage. You'll both have 1 minute for opening remarks, beginning with Cole Callahan.
Hey, you guys, War Eagle. My name is Cole Callahan. For those of you who don't know, I'm a junior from Birmingham, Alabama, majoring in biomedical sciences pre-med with a minor in philanthropy and nonprofit studies. And I do consider it a true honor that my Auburn experiences have led me up here to stand in front of all of you today. My election into the school's council as a freshman immediately put me into an area where I was growing alongside my peers under the mentorship and leadership of so many great advisors. My sophomore year then led on where I saw I had some of my greatest highs with the success of the UPC's David Dobrik event to some of my greatest lows with the heartbreaking loss of my summer on campus with Camp War Eagle. But in spite of the face of adversity, the Auburn family never failed to pick me back up. My junior year began and I found a new family in the home of the Senate, where I was once again surrounded by peers who pushed me to exceed and excel every single week. It was in that new home that I found a new purpose, a purpose in Senate. And so I hope that if I were elected as your vice president, to promote meaningful connections within the Auburn family, where emphasis is being placed on those connections between the student senate and the student body. Thank you.
Andrew, you'll have 1 minute.
Thank you. Hey guys, my name's Andrew Dismukes. I'm so excited to be running for SGA Vice President. During my time at Auburn, I've been fully involved in Senate right from the start, right from freshman year. I've served 1 year as a senator from the College of Business, and then this past year I've served as President Pro Temp, which is the step below the Vice President. I want to touch on a couple things I want to get done if elected. The first thing is to increase Senate representation so that students can be more heard and feel more valued within the Student Senate. Currently, schools have representatives that act as senators, and I want to increase those in the liaison positions as well. Secondly, I'd like to work on SGA campaigns themselves. I know that students kind of feel overwhelmed by SGA campaigns, and I like to work on this with students so that they feel that they can be a part of those campaigns. Lastly, I'd like to add a communications and marketing position to Senate staff. This staff would be more informative to the student body on what exactly SGA is doing to further this university. Thanks.
Thank you both so much. The first question will begin with Cole. If one piece of legislation makes headlines in the year ahead, what do you hope that legislation is, and how will it benefit Auburn students?
Actually, yeah. So one thing that I've actually done in my recent term as a senator is one thing that I pushed for. Like I mentioned, I was elected to schools council president of COSAM as a freshman. And if there's one thing that I can tell you, it's that while they are both under the same legislative branch, both the schools council and the Senate, they're not connected in the way that they should be. My freshman year saw a great disconnect between my role and what I thought I was supposed to do. And it's a bond that I feel like can be mended through passing of legislation that would allow the schools council to attend Senate in bi-semesterly basis. I think if we can implement that change, it will connect a resource that is under the same branch, but I don't think is being utilized to actively use a student voice that they both represent. Having that connection and that, I guess, partnership is something that I really think would be able to benefit each student, so that the Senate's legislation that's being passed can both be heard and understood by the schools council, which just adds another layer of constituent feedback.
Andrew, you'll have a 45-second time window for a rebuttal.
I want schools council to feel valued and a part of SGA. Originally, schools council was actually part of the executive branch, but some changes in the branches were made and it got put under the legislative role. Since then, the schools council positions have not had the structure that was necessary to make sure their voices were heard accurately. I would like to work on this issue and make sure that schools council will feel more of a part of SGA and student senate and underneath the legislative body as a whole. I want to make sure that these students also feel like they will give something back towards the legislative body, and through that, we can make this place a little bit better.
The next question will begin with Andrew. What are some ways the Student Senate can tackle new projects while maintaining a consistent focus on the issues that affect everyday student life, such as academics, dining, and housing?
Of course. As Senate, we represent the entire Auburn University student body. I want to make sure that every constituent is known and heard. Through this, and going back to my first campaign point of Senate representation, I'd like to make sure that students know that they can come to their senators and be heard and understand that senators are there to support them and make this university a better place. Senators are supposed to represent the entire student body. Whatever their issues is, whether it's on campus, academics, dining, whatever, I want those students to know that SGA is going to do something for them. SGA Senate is not supposed to be, to pick and choose. They're not supposed to pick and choose on what we want to work on. We need to represent the student voice.
Cole, you'll have 45 seconds for a rebuttal.
Your point of, I guess, you asked how can we make sure that we're taking new initiatives while still staying on those focused topics. And I think the best way to make that change is to, the first point of my platform is to make set office hours for both college specific and involvement specific. So every single week you're obviously seeing the same pieces of legislation being harped on. And I think it's because we do not have a great feedback system yet. If we implemented those set office hours for both college and involvement specific, that's allowing us to have new voices and opinions to hear every single week, which would allow us to make these new change alongside the ones we already talk about each week among our own Senate group.
The next question will begin with Cole. What actions will you take to ensure that the Student Senate is respected by the student body as working on their behalf and respected by administration for being an informed, true reflection of the student body's desires rather than the desires of 34 senators?
Thank you, Ada. So one of the first, points of contest I made in Senate this year was that among my organization, I asked, can everybody raise their hands if you're a member of a Greek organization? And as you can imagine, a large portion of the room did. And there's nothing wrong with that, absolutely at all, that they were given the initiative and the availability to do that. However, I truly believe that my experiences thus far have allowed me to have a more comprehensive view of this university and this campus. And I think that my vast areas of representation through many student organizations give me an idea and an ability of how I can better implement Senate that respects every aspect in organization. And while I think the idea of Senate expansion is awesome and great, I do think that the current members of Senate, through both the initiative having set office hours, as well as potentially increasing the school's council representation, we can do a better job of making sure that every student is being heard with the current system that's already in place.
Andrew, you'll have 45 seconds for a rebuttal.
Of course, thank you. Administration looks at Senate to represent the entire student body voice. Currently, Senate is made up of individual schools and colleges, and one thing that I'd like to work on is increasing the amount of voting seats as well as adding and solidifying the liaison positions. Through this, Student Senate can accurately represent the student voice. I want to make sure that administration trusts us with this role because, through quantifiable data and polls. So furthering Auburn Answers, going out and doing concourse hours, asking students exactly what they feel. 34 people sitting in a room should not be able to just talk to their friends and talk to their buddies and then come together with a plan. Students need to go out and actually...
Thank you so much, Andrew. Your time is up. The next question will start with Andrew. What role should the Student Senate play in making the Auburn student experience more equitable and inclusive? And what are some steps you hope to see Senate take this year in that effort?
Of course. Like I've previously harped on, I'd love to increase Senate representation across the board. Whether this is adding more voting seats or increasing the liaison positions, I want to make sure that each student organization understands and knows that they can have a liaison sit in on Student Senate. Even though those liaison positions might not be able to vote, I'd like to make sure that they still have to be able, they can have the opportunity to sit in that room and be part of those discussions. Through this, the Student Senate and the SGA can represent accurately the entire student body.
Cole, you'll have 45 seconds for a rebuttal.
Thank you. Yeah, so I believe that my first and third platform points are actually perfectly centered towards this question. Both count on accessibility and count on communication. I believe each point strives to make sure that the students know that the Student Senate is for and by them. And I think that by, like I said, setting office hours, and through my third point of making sure that the school's council is being counted as just an equal under the same branch, we're making a great effort to ensure students' knowledge that they are a part of this organization and that they have the ability to attend Senate meetings and they can talk in open forum and that they can discuss on the bills and legislation that we've actually been presenting. I think by opening that topic up to all of the students and acting as one unified group instead of just a 34 segregated few, I think that would be a great way to make those changes.
Thank you both so much. You'll now have 1 minute for closing remarks, beginning with Cole.
Thank you. I guess I want to say thank you to everyone who's watching this. I think my mom and my dad are. Hi, Mom. I just want to say, truthfully, thank you to so many people in this room and on the Zoom call. I really thought a long time about what I was going to do this next year and what my experience should look like, and I kind of didn't think that this was for me, but through conversations with people that I love and people that I care about and people who have invested in me so much, I realized that taking on this initiative was something that I really should do, and I truthfully believe that I will be your best vice president for this next upcoming term. Thank you. I hope you can count on Callahan.
Andrew, you have 1 minute.
I've been involved in Senate since my freshman year, and I truly believe that it is my home. I've loved it ever since I went to my first Senate meeting that actually lasted 3.5 hours. I love the debate that crossed the floor and everything that was voted on. That's a lot of the reason why I stuck with SGA Senate and Senate specifically. But this week, I'll be on the concourse. I've talked a little bit about my platform. I encourage everyone to go on the websites and read the platforms again and let your voices be heard. I'll be out there, so please come by and talk to me. Again, appreciate everyone who decided to join in tonight and listen to us debate, and I hope you can decide on dismukes on February 2nd.
Thank you both so much. You can now step down from the stage. The last part of this evening will include hearing from your presidential candidates, so you can now come to the stage. You'll now all have 1 minute for opening remarks, beginning with Sloane.
War Eagle, everybody. My name is Sloane Ziverenk. I'm so honored to be standing here to be running as your next SGA president. I'm a junior majoring in public relations, and I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. My slogan this week is Be Known with Sloane, and this kind of was inspired by my entire purpose in running. I want SGA to be more accessible. I want students to look at SGA and know that they are seen, heard, and known. This ties into my 3 sections of my platform: communication and transparency, campus life, and student representation. Now, I'm sure we'll have the chance to talk about all of our platform points, so I just want to leave you with something that is really, really central to my platform. Be Known with Sloane is a campaign dedicated to the students, where all concerns are heard, all questions are answered, all intentions are transparent, all steps are unifying, and all 30,000 plus family members are known.
Tyler, you now have 1 minute.
War Eagle, everyone. My name is Tyler Ward, and I'm so excited to be running to be your next SGA president. Thank you, SGA, for hosting this COVID-19 free event, and thank you guys for tuning in. For the past 3 years, Auburn has given so much to me, so much love, so much passion, and I'm excited to be able to give that same heart and that same gratitude back to you guys. I hope that tonight you will see why you should go forward with me. I know we'll talk a lot more about the platforms and things like that, but accountability, accessibility, and inclusion. These are 3 areas that I have seen that we can improve in through my opportunities to serve with Black Student Union, for Camp War Eagle, and in SGA Senate and Cabinet. I'm so glad that you guys are tuned in. I'm so excited to talk a little bit more about my platform. I know that going forward is the way that we need to go, and I hope that today you can see the steps that we need to take to get there.
Rhett, you'll now have 1 minute.
What's up, guys? I'm War Eagle. I'm Rhett Wagner, and I wanted to start tonight by telling y'all the most embarrassing thing that's happened to me in SGA. I remember I was a sophomore in the spring, and I'm going to my first real meeting for the Student Insurance Committee. And I get there, and I'm just walking on the concourse, and I get in the room, and I'm wearing a flannel shirt, jeans, and boots. And I walk in, and the first thing I do is look around, and there's Dr. Gouge in a suit and tie. Here's some insurance executives sitting there also in a coat and tie, and I'm just sitting there in my flannel shirt. I learned a lot from that meeting, and in the rest of my time at SGA, I've continually had experiences that teach me more and more about SGA. And through that, I've really grown to love the organization, but not nearly as much as I love Auburn. And so when I decided to run for SGA president, I wanted to make sure that the whole time, the main core purpose of me running for SGA president was just to go love Auburn some more. I can't wait to tell you all a little bit more about my platform tonight, and thank y'all for tuning in.
Thank you to all 3 of you for sharing that. We'll now begin with our first question, starting with Sloane. Besides being able to connect socially, what do you believe are the top 3 issues facing Auburn students in the year ahead? And can you tell us how you will specifically tackle each one of those? We'll begin with Sloane.
Thank you, Ada. So there's a lot of things that I think are facing students right now. I just wrote down my top 3. Obviously, right now we're dealing with the worldwide pandemic, COVID-19, and then also I think diversity and inclusion, and then just making students feel like they are being heard. I know I just ran through all those, but I'm just going to hit back on all of them. COVID is something that's really been impacting all of us, and I want to applaud our university for taking all the necessary steps to make students feel safe here on this campus. I think we need to keep doing this and keep kind of paying attention to peer institutions and seeing what they're doing and see how we can take those steps also to improve what we are doing. Next, inclusion and diversity. This is something that obviously is a very big hot topic in everything, and because of all the things that are going on in the world right now, this is something we need to be paying attention to as SGA leaders. And lastly, making sure students feel known and heard. I served as Camp War Eagle counselor this summer, and I had the ability to lead a lot of freshmen through orientation. And a lot of freshmen sat there and would tell me that they didn't feel like they were going to make any friends. They didn't feel like they were going to be known here on campus. And I think this is something we need to address and take all the necessary steps to accomplish all 3 of these things. Thank you.
Tyler, you'll have 45 seconds for a rebuttal.
So the 3 areas, the 3 biggest issues that are facing our community right now is COVID-19, DEI, and accountability. We cannot just talk about COVID-19 as if it's this broad thing that we just need to address. We need to have actionable steps to address them. The next 2 issues are diversity, equity, inclusion, and accountability. But those 2 areas cannot be addressed unless you address COVID-19 first. I want to address that through a sound mind, a sound body, and a spirit that is not afraid, through academic resources, making sure that people have access to a vaccine, and also making sure that we're being equitable and inclusive in our areas and our expertise. I want to make sure that we are harping on a sound body, a sound mind, and a spirit that is not afraid, because if we only address one of those areas, like mental health, then it just won't work. We have to address all 3, or the problem won't be solved at all.
Rhett, you'll have 45 seconds.
Well, those are some really good answers, and honestly, I really do agree with a lot of those. But I think when you're looking at my campaign for SGA president, the #1 thing SGA should always be for is the individual student. And each individual student has a variety of different things that concern them. And so what I want to say is that if I am elected your SGA president, my core purpose will be to promote the individual student. The third part of my platform is talking about raising the standard for you personally. What that means is the things that you will experience every day in your daily life that SGA can do to make your experience at Auburn University a better one. Thank you.
Tyler, we'll begin with you for the second question. The role of SGA president certainly has its perks and privileges, but how do you plan to ensure your focus is always on upholding the significant responsibilities of the position for the benefit of others rather than yourself?
So a lot of what my platform is centered around is taking my own Auburn experience and looking at it and seeing how I could have fixed it and made it better. But it's also focused on listening and making sure that I take the experiences of the individual students and making sure that their voice is heard. For example, Rhett just mentioned that the individual student, that there are different things that each one is facing. Every single individual student is facing COVID-19. I am, all the candidates are, everyone in the audience is, and so that's the thing that I can use to make sure we address it wholeheartedly. And so I think that the way that we do these things equitably and inclusively is through an initiative tracker to make sure that people know exactly what we're working on, so that if people think that we could be working on something else or something that's better, they can give us that feedback and they can let us know. The way that they can do that is through Feedback Fridays. This is the opportunity for people to focus on what they think is the most important. Because at the end of the day, I don't know every single experience. I can listen to every single student and still not understand. My job in moving forward is not to step into your shoes. My job is to honor your footsteps and clear your path so that you can go forward. And the way that I do that is by intentionally listening and acting, not just by giving you these broad examples or promise you that I'm going to get you these random things like alcohol on the concourse or alcohol in the stadium. I know some people probably like it on the concourse, but anyway, my job is to make sure that I'm listening and valuing your Auburn experience and solving each issue as they come about.
Brett, you'll have 45 seconds for a rebuttal.
Absolutely. So the job of the SGA president is undoubtedly to put others over themselves. I think this year's execs showed that incredibly well handling this COVID pandemic. It was a challenge that not many people could have withstood. I do believe that the biggest thing that I can offer in terms of making sure SGA does keep others over ourselves is reform within SGA. The second part of my platform is to raise the standard within SGA. And a few of the points we have in that area are, first, finding a way to increase or create low commitment positions within SGA. Another one we have within SGA is reforming Campaign Week, at least looking into reform for Campaign Week. Campaign Week is actually the #1 most complained about part of SGA, and I think if we can do something to reduce the amount of time people are being harassed on the concourse rather than actual genuine conversation.
Thank you, Rhett. Your time is up. Sloane, you have 45 seconds.
Here. Okay, so I think one of the absolute best ways to put others before yourself is to really focus on feedback. So on my platform, I have two things that are very, very feedback heavy. One of them being the executive goal tracking feature on the SGA website. Similar to the facilities website, I want this to be something that you can look at and see who's working on a project and when it's projected to be done. The second thing is exec on the concourse. I want exec members to take a time out of their week and maybe use it as an office hour. Go sit on the concourse and offer face-to-face feedback. This is something that is so easy and so doable, and I think this would be an excellent thing for exec to do.
Rhett, we'll start with you for this third question. If elected, you would be responsible for appointing an executive team around you, as well as the rest of your cabinet. How would you go about making selections, and what would be your priorities in those selections?
Okay, that's a great question. I think the #1 thing to think about when you look at building an exec team is that I'll be in office potentially with 2 other elected officers. Their input matters just as much as mine in building a team that we could all work with. I would love to be able to sit down with those people at the beginning and really share a conversation about who we all can agree would be best for the roles. And that's one thing I'd like to do for sure. Another way I'd like to work on that is when we're looking at these people who apply for exec, the #1 thing that I want to look for in someone is someone who just genuinely loves Auburn. There's a lot of people on this campus who really, truly care about it, and I think that becomes ever evident when we look at all the people who signed up to run for SGA office this year. And so that's one way I'd like to look at appointing exec if I'm to win.
Sloane, you have 45 seconds for a rebuttal.
So I think some of the most important things when it comes to picking a team in a cabinet are ideas and then also the willingness to serve. SGA is for the students and by the students, obviously. So I think having that willingness to serve and being able to give your time to receive feedback and sit and listen to students and make sure that their voices are being heard through you is so important. And then also ideas. Experience is incredible. Obviously, we want people to have experience when it comes to the higher positions, but maybe opening that up and showing so many different people across this campus that normally have not applied to SGA or not have had the ability to, opening it up to those new, fresh ideas and allowing them to come into SGA and really change SGA for the better.
Tyler, you have 45 seconds.
So I want to address what my two opponents said. Rhett said that he will look for somebody that is loving Auburn. I love Chipotle, but if I was to become the CEO of Chipotle, it would go absolutely down the drain because I don't know what they need. Sloane mentioned ideas and making sure that it's someone that's willing to serve. And I get that 1,000%, but how can we make sure that the ideas are coming from an inclusive group if we're not having inclusive practices? And so that's why I want to install a director of internal affairs. What they would do is they would look at the overview of every single area that we can grow in our application process. Look at how we interview, look at how we look at applications, look at how we score, look at how we rate. It would be someone that isn't involved in the process to make sure that we're doing everything that is inclusive and equitable and making sure that we have a diverse cabinet within SGA.
Sloane, this next question will start with you. If elected, how would you handle a situation where the student body wanted one thing and faculty or administrators wanted another?
I think this is a really important question to ask because you see exec put in that position a lot. Obviously, as elected by your students, you are there to represent the students. You are there to have their voices be heard through you, but then also you have to take the voices from the administrators and give those back to the students. It's an excellent position to be a great liaison from the students to the administrators and administrators to the students. It's all about finding that really good balance in between those two and making sure both sides know why each voice is important.
Tyler, you'll have 45 seconds for a rebuttal.
So one of my roles as SGA president would be to serve on the board of trustees. And when I walk in there, what they want is they want student feedback. And the way that I would do that is making sure that I am bringing all the issues that students want to the forefront. The way that I do that is by making sure that they are aware of every single issue that is facing our campus. That's by taking what we get back from Feedback Fridays, which I know will be an inclusive and equitable way, because when I ask questions on my story, I get 200 responses. And so when I take things like that and I go into those areas, I can advocate and fight for them in a lot of different ways. Another is just giving them the raw image of what students want. Black at Auburn was an Instagram page that got the attention of members of the board of trustees and even the president of this university, because students know what they want themselves. All I have to do is just give the microphone to them, but in this role, they give the microphone to me, and so my job is to speak for them.
Rhett, you have 45 seconds.
In my first year on the Student Senate, the university proposed a logo change. And I remember sitting in the Senate floor as a freshman who didn't all the way understand Senate yet, but I was figuring it out. And while I was watching that, I watched some of the people who have led in SGA this year stand up for what students believed about the logo. They did so in a way that was respectful, it was confident, and they used the Senate process that has already been established to do so. And what they ended up accomplishing was keeping our beautiful logo the way it is. And I thought that was an excellent example of what happens when students and administration disagree on something and work together to find a common solution through a process that already exists.
For this next question, we'll begin with Tyler. As SGA president, you're responsible for managing a large team and leading the student body. How would you go about navigating conflicting priorities, and what will your priorities be?
So as I addressed before, my first and main priority will be addressing COVID-19. And the reason is that I can create all these different initiatives, but if I don't address it first, then nothing else matters. For example, Exec on the Concourse, I think, is a beautiful and a great idea. But when we're in the middle of a pandemic, why would we try to do in-person communication and feedback? We have to think about these things when we're looking to see how we can advocate for student body. So I want to make sure that we're being accountable, accessible, and inclusive. And the way that we do that is making sure that people know exactly what SGA is, know exactly what we're about. That way, they can hold us accountable to those things to make sure that they know exactly how to address us, exactly how to reach us, and exactly how to give us that feedback. And inclusion is the third thing. I want to make sure that I'm not just speaking to my friends, not just speaking to the ones that I know, but really making sure that every single individual student knows how to access SGA and knows how we're here to advocate for them.
Brett, you'll have 45 seconds for a rebuttal.
What Tyler said about making sure we take care of COVID first is a beautiful point. We have this virus going on right now that has changed the way we do everything, from Zoom meetings to walking to class in a mask, from all of that. And so I think that that's one huge point that, like he said, should be addressed first. Another thing that I can think of when it comes to me working with teams, I would really hope that I can build a team around me with diversity of thought. People who are from different backgrounds than I am, people who are from different states or cities than I am. I think that would be an incredible way to promote working with a team, and as well as working with this diversity of thought, we could add the ability to just hear each other, understand each other, work together, and be friends outside of the office as well.
Sloane, you have 45 seconds.
So priorities are very important when it comes to SGA leading, and of course, I think a main priority should be communication and transparency, which is a topic on my platform. Transparency is one of the most important things. It comes into feedback also. Students can give their feedback, and SGA can then be more transparent with what needs to be done. And I think this is very easily done and can also be very safely done on the concourse, or even done within Auburn Answers, which is an online alternative to something like this, as long as we are following those guidelines. And like my great two candidates over here said, making sure COVID-19 is addressed through all of these things, and making sure that student feedback is put first, and making sure that these students know that they are heard.
This last question will begin with Rhett. In recent years, SGA has shown a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Can you talk about a time in the last year that you've worked to make something more equitable or inclusive?
Absolutely. I think one thing that I'm very proud of in this last year is the way that I've been able to become a friend to Tyler Ward in the past year. He is someone who really does inspire me, and I appreciate him a lot, and I've appreciated our friendship. And that's one thing that I've really appreciated about this last year. And in terms of diversity, equity, inclusion, and continuing that practice as we go through this next year in SGA, I would love to establish an executive vice president of diversity, equity, inclusion. The first question I get asked when I bring that up to people is often, what would that person do? And I think, honestly, looking at the different campaigns we have up here and the different platforms we have up here, a combination of a bunch of them would be an excellent way to establish that position. One thing Tyler talked about is a director of internal affairs. And I think if we were to establish an associate vice president of internal affairs, as well as one for recruitment and as well as one for cooperation, we could have this executive vice president overseeing 3 AVPs, and it would be able to create a whole new branch of SGA that could do a whole lot for students in improving these practices that we promote in SGA.
Sloane, you have 45 seconds for a rebuttal.
So something that I've been really passionate about working with in the past couple months was speaking with the Eagles program. I would love to see an Eagles seat put in the Student Senate and allow Eagles to have a seat at the table when it comes to SGA decisions. They're a group that's underrepresented right now, if represented at all, within the Student Senate. I think this is a really important thing that can be done. And then also something that I have been really passionate about is speaking with members of the International Student Organization and seeing how we can take young leaders in SGA and pairing those with the young leaders in International Student Organization, so we can bridge that gap and open up that door for ISO and SGA to become a little bit more working together and being able to work on all kinds of things on this campus.
Tyler, you have 45 seconds.
So I want to address what my two opponents said. To Rhett's point, I love that I've been able to become your friend, but I'm also not going to be your diversity, equity, and inclusion work. To Sloane's point, I 100% understand that we need to bringing Eagles into the student seat, or different things like that. But the problem isn't that the Eagles don't have a voice or that international students don't have a voice. The problem is that the people with the mic aren't speaking for them. And the way that we do that is to make sure that everyone is doing their job and holding themselves accountable. DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. As committee chair last year, I realized that you can't do one without all 3. Diversity through a Tiger Recruitment Committee, making sure that we're being equitable during assistant vice president of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and make sure that we're being inclusive by representing all of the student bodies and honoring their footsteps. I think that if you build up, time's up.
Thank you, Tyler. We'll now begin with closing remarks, starting with Sloane.
Just wanted to thank you all for watching today and tuning in. This has been such a great opportunity. I've been friends with these guys since freshman year, and so I've just loved doing this alongside them. I'm very passionate about my platform and about how we can make students feel very empowered and make sure that they feel seen, heard, and known. So please come stop by on the concourse and meet us and get to know a little bit more about the platform, and I hope you will be known with Sloane on February 2nd.
Tyler.
So the first thing I want to do is I want to thank Rhett and I want to thank Sloane for being up here with me. I know that this is a tough thing to do, but an SGA president is going to have to make tough decisions. And sometimes it's going to be holding and keeping your friends and your kindreds accountable, and I'm glad that I'm able to do that with you too. I'm so excited that I get to run for this position. I really believe that every single student really wants to go forward, and I also believe that I am the one that can lead that charge. So I hope that you join me, because I know this platform I can only go forward with you because this platform has that, I can only go forward with you because I know that this platform has the foundation to serve you because it is built upon you. Thank you.
Rhett.
Well, first things first, thank you to everyone on Zoom, thank you to everyone in this room, and thank you to both the people up on the stage with me and Ada. I really appreciate y'all all being here tonight. This was, impressive that we were able to hold this event even with COVID. If there's one thing that I would love for y'all to remember from tonight, it's that I really do love this place. I say it a lot, and sometimes it sounds cheesy, but I've loved it for a long time, and I'll continue loving it for a longer time. I wanted to talk about my platform, and I hope I got to enough. And one thing that I'd like to say is loving Auburn is great, but to say that it is perfect how it is would be an incredibly naive sentence. And that's why we want to raise the standard. We want to raise it for student empowerment. We want to raise it for within SGA, and we want to raise it for you personally. So with that being said, I hope that I can serve you all and make this place better, and I hope that on February 2nd, you rise with Rhett. Thank you.
Thank you to all three of you. You can now leave the stage. That concludes tonight's debate. Thank you so much to all the candidates for participating and running safe campaigns amongst a national pandemic. On behalf of SGA Elections, I want to thank all of you at home that tuned in to tonight's debate. Thank you to Eagle Eye TV for their willingness to come out and put on a fantastic production for us. Please make sure your voice is heard on voting day by voting Tuesday, February 2nd at aub.ie/SGA vote from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Check out the Auburn SGA social media pages for information on each candidate and how to vote. In addition, SGA applications are now live. Executive level positions are due by Tuesday, February 9th at 4:45 p.m. Assistant Vice President level positions are due Tuesday, February 23rd at 4:45 p.m. And Director and Assistant Director level positions are due by Tuesday, March 9th at 4:45 p.m. Thanks again, and War Eagle.